9 at the time. I said, Bethany, whatever happens, if there's a fire, if there's a bomb blast, whatever happens, do not stop running until you've won. Okay? Until you hit the fence and you can't run any further. Do not stop. Whatever happens. So it comes to the race. Okay? The gun goes off, and again the same thing happens. She's a bit of a slow starter because she runs in a strange way. If you ever see my daughter, she kind of runs a bit like that, but anyway. She's slow starting, and then she catches up to the people in front of her. And as she gets into that first line that she stopped at last year, something happens. I look with horror, because what happens is her shoe comes off. It's like in slow motion. He's like, no! And just for one moment, she looks behind and sees the shoe. And whether it was my words or what it was, but she thought, no, shoe or no shoe. Just carried on. One shoe on, one shoe off. So she's waddling like that and she's coming up and down. But hey, goes through the tape. Well, there wasn't a tape, or else there would have been a problem the year before then. I'm not bitter. The letter to Ofsted was only 2 sheets long. And she won the race. And I was proud, and she was proud. But again, it's that lesson, What things can distract us? What things, she could have just stopped and said, oh, I want to get the shoe. It's going to be uncomfortable if I carry on running without a shoe. But she saw the finish. She saw the prize that she wanted. And sometimes as Christians, we lose shoes. We see the wrong lines. We see the things that aren't important. And we allow them to distract us. So, some practical things. I want to be very practical this morning. How do we run in a way that will win the prize? What obstacles will the enemy put in our way? And secondly, what can we do to run in a way to get the prize? Okay, so obstacles. 1. Again, I said that the enemy says the race is not important. That's the biggest lie. Taking part's the important thing. That's what the enemy will tell you. As long as you told that person about Jesus, that's the important. No. Let's look at the bigger picture. Consistent living, perseverance, plan and strategy will see people's lives change for Jesus. Second thing, obstacle, living for me. Living for my comfort. Do you know, if you want to win any athletics competition or any sport, it's not going to be comfortable. One of the greatest Olympians that has ever walked the planet, in my opinion, a guy I have greatly respect, is Sir Steve Redgrave. He not only won the gold medal, he won it 5 times. That means he was the best in the world for 20 years. In fact, when he won it, I think it was his 4th gold medal, they said, are you going to go for a 5th? He said, if I ever sit in a boat again, shoot me. And the interview with his wife is important as well, because they said, yeah, we don't see him for months on end. He gets up at the crack of dawn and rows, goes to work, comes back, rows some more, goes overseas to get the climate of the place he's going to row in. This is his life. And when he retired, finally, they got their husband and father back. But he gave everything in pursuit of his goal. Now, if he said, well, actually, it's not comfortable, waking up at that time in the morning is not good for me, doing this on Saturday and Sunday, he would never have won anything. If we're going to win the prize, we've got to watch that hurdle, that it's going to be comfortable. And it's all about me. Second obstacle. Oh my word. Second obstacle. Laziness. If you don't put any hard work in, you're not going to win nothing. Actually, when you become lazy and you don't run, you sit down and then you watch, it's called spectating. You become one of the crowd, just watching. And I think the saddest thing ever is those of another generation who say, do you know what, I could have been a great athlete. If I'd not done this, I could have been a great footballer. Well, you didn't, and you weren't. It's harsh, but it's true. Sometimes that's because of injury, and that can't be avoided. Sometimes that's because of unavoidable circumstances. I'm talking about those that said it was too much of a cost to pay. That's basically. I couldn't afford to pay the price and commit to that thing. It's tragic when somebody's career is cut short by injury or circumstances they can't help. But I'm talking about those that would rather sit and watch than those that get involved. Another thing, another obstacle is going it alone. You know, if we try and go it alone, we might not achieve all that God's got for us to achieve. We talked about synergy a few weeks ago, about that you put two people's effort together and you get more than they could do on their own. There's today, at some point today, history's going to be made. A guy called Christopher Wiggins is his name. Has anybody heard of him?
Yeah.
Sorry? Bradley Wiggins, thank you. It's Christopher Froome is his teammate, isn't it? And he's going to win the Tour de France, barring a disaster. Now, he's there in the lead. He's the lead rider for his team. And his support rider is called Christopher Froome. And he's got a job to support the lead rider and control the pack and do all sorts of things. And in a couple of stages ago, they're riding out in the lead. There's nobody near them. And Bradley Wiggins is getting tired. And he says to his partner, Chris Froome, he said, do you know what? Why don't you go ahead and win the race? You get the glory. You know, you're supporting me. You go and get the glory on this one. Because, you know, I'm getting tired. And you go on and win this stage. Do you know what he said? That's not my place. My place is here with you, helping you to win. Wow. I'll give up some glory so that the team wins. So this man gets what he needs, and I do my job. You know, sometimes we need people with that attitude who say, you know, it's not about me, but I'll give up my ambitions to help someone else. And this guy, Christopher Froome, his day will come. But what a great attitude. But let's not go it alone. You know, if we watched another race, and you've got Usain Bolt lined up, ready for the 100 metres. You've got, is it Asafa Powell next to him, ready to run. You've got the best runners in the world, and then suddenly, a guy from Bolton comes with a pair of shorts on, a pair of Doc Martin boots, hanky on his head, he's got a suitcase dragging along here, and he's got another bag over his shoulder, and he lines up to the starting line and says, well, I've got to catch the plane when I finished here, so I've got my stuff here. Is he going to win? No. We cannot win the prize if we're carrying our baggage. We've got to leave our baggage somewhere behind. Those things that easily entangle, but also the baggage, those things in our past, the enemy wants to put them in a suitcase and get you to carry it round the rest of your life. If we are going to achieve what God wants us to achieve in the race, we need to get the baggage and leave it at the cross. Leave it under the blood of Jesus and say, you know, I don't need this stuff anymore to win the race God has got for me. There was a story, it's an allegory, it's not a true story obviously, but it was a story, an illustration about a man who was a very, very rich man. And he said, God, can I ask one thing? When I die and go to heaven, can I take one suitcase with me? And he felt on his heart, God said, yeah, you know, when he gets buried with you, you can bring that one suitcase into heaven. So he thought, right, I'll get all my belongings, all my worldly goods. He sold everything he owned, and he bought it and put it into gold bars. He thought, right. And he got all these gold bars and put them in one suitcase. He said, God, that's the suitcase. So everything he owned, translated into gold, into the suitcase. And the day came when he died, he went to heaven with the suitcase, and he got to the gates, and he opened it, and he said, look at that. And St. Peter looked into the case, leaned over his shoulder, shouted to Jesus, Jesus, there's another one here with some more paving stones. Because that's all it's worth. Let's not run with baggage. Things that we think are important that weigh us down. I'm not saying get rid of all the good things, but I'm saying don't let your run be hindered by things that will weigh you down. Another thing, what if Usain Bolt, the fastest man alive, and me had a 100-metre race? Do you know how I could win? I could tell him to run the wrong way. And he would go off at a speed, and then I could just trot down and win. He'd probably turn around after a mile, run the other way and still win. But we've got to run the right way. You know, a lot of us, we spend our time running and putting energy in, but if we don't run the right way, the way that God wants us to run, we're not going to win anything. And we'll encounter problems and scenarios that God never meant us to find. You know, you see these races, don't you, when a signpost goes wrong and they all go the wrong way. That's why we've got to run the race that's marked out before us. Well, actually, I want to do this in business, I want to do that. I want to live like, I'll use Tom as an example, or Moaz. We can't do that because God's marked out a race for them. So let's stop looking at the race that God's marked out for other people and concentrate on the race that God has marked out for us and the success that we have. Do you know, I watched this morning and it's fresh in me. The first man to break 4 minutes on over a mile was a quiz question again, Sir Roger Bannister in May 1954. Has everybody heard of him? Or?
Yeah.
Yeah. First man to break 4 minutes. Now, funny enough, it created something because 17 people broke that year, I believe. Incredible achievement. When one person had done it, it opened the floodgates for everyone to do it because it was then possible. But the next guy to get the world record, very shortly after, was an Australian called John Landy, I think his name was. And he was a great runner. So he beat the world record of Sir Roger Bannister. And what happened was, because he was Australian and Roger Bannister was English, they were going to run in the 1954 Commonwealth, well, they called the Empire Games in those days. And they were saying, these are the two men who've broken the 4 minute mile. This is going to be the race of the century. This was the big race. I don't know whether anyone was old enough here to remember it or seen it, but this was the race. Two people beating 4 minutes. This is going to be great. Now, John Landy was quick. He was the world record holder, and he could run very fast. To run a 4 minute mile, you've got to run at 15 miles an hour for 4 minutes. Now, I can't run at 15 miles an hour for 20 seconds. But this John Landy, he could get up to speed, and he would leave people behind. He would break their spirit because he would run at a pace from the moment the gun went. And people would say, we can't keep up with him. And so he'd win the race. He would take the lead off after, the second bend, and he was unstoppable. Roger Bannister, however, he was a guy that he would bide his time. He'd have a strategy. He'd have patience. And he would wait until the moment he saw an opportunity, then he would kick for home and run really, really fast and win the race. So you've got this guy who's patient, and you've got John Landy. So this race of the century builds up, the gun goes off, and within a matter of strides, John Landy's in the way, and he's pulling away. And the rest of the pack are just lumbering along with Roger Bannister. And then Roger Bannister gets a bit of a spurt on, starts catching him, but he's quite a way behind. But on the back straight on the last lap, as he's closing, John Landy is aware that Roger Bannister's coming. And then, in what everyone recognises as a pivotal moment, just on the last bend, John Landy looks across his left shoulder to see where Roger Bannister is. And as soon as his head moved, do you know what Roger Bannister did?
Passed him.
Passed him on the right-hand side. So he looked over his left shoulder. Roger Bannister kicks for home. And before John Landy knew it, as he looked back, all he saw was the back of Roger Bannister, powering on to win in this race of the century. Both of them beat 4 minutes in that race as well, again. But they interviewed John Landy afterwards, and he said, I've read my Bible a lot to look back and got turned to a pillar of salt. And he said something like this, he said, I look back and turn gold into bronze. Because he looked back. Incredible. We can spend all our time looking back to another day, another generation. And while we do that, we lose that opportunity to pray and price forward to what God has intended. Roger Bannister was asked just lately, because he carried the Olympic flame through Oxford at 83. They said, was that 4 minute mile the best moment of your life? He said, no. He said, I worked 40 years after that as a doctor in brain surgery, coming up with inventions and things that have saved lives and changed lives. He said, that's far more important. John Landy is another incredible guy, because he was in the 1956 all Australian Games. And his claim to fame, his defining moment was this. The championship of all Australia is on the line, and they said, go. And John Landy, the group went out ahead, and John Landy's running as quick as he can to catch them up in his usual strategy. But one of his friends, I think his name was Clark, Ron Clark, fell over, but didn't just fall over, I mean, he hit the ground with a sickening thud. All out, totaled himself, wiped himself out, splattered on the ground. All the rest of the runners are carrying on. John Landy, in a couple of strides, sees his friend on the floor, stops, goes back, picks him up, Says, are you all right, my friend? Are you all right? Come on, run. So his friend starts running. And suddenly he realises, hold on, what am I doing? And he starts running.